another episode of Brewed and Boozed Food Quarantine Cuisine. We're very lucky in New Orleans that we have a very long growing season, and we can always count on finding an abundant variety of fruits and vegetables that are freshly picked from the garden. Normally we would be going to some of the farmer stands and farmers markets and choosing our favorite products. Unfortunately, that has been curtailed, but I was able to find some great produce at a farmer stand not too far from my home. I found these amazingly large cucumbers, and when life gives me cucumbers, I like to make my IPA Inferno Pickles. You're going to need a great beer, and Urban South, a local New Orleans brewery, has some of the best IPA around. It's called Holy Roller IPA. It's just perfect for this recipe, and it's also great to drink. Let's get cooking. Let's get started with assembling our pickles. I was able to find this giant cucumber at a farm stand last week, and so we're going to attempt to make the pickles with that. Now, the recipe I have calls for 2 pounds of cucumbers. I am using 2 of these giant cucumbers. The first thing to do when making pickles is to prepare your cucumbers. The blossom end of the cucumber needs to be cut off, and I cut off both ends because I generally make them into spears. Blossom contains an enzyme that will make the pickles soft, and it may be unsafe to eat. So the first thing you need to do when assembling your pickles is you need to cut off the ends of the cucumber, and then I cut it into spears, which, depending on the size of your cucumber, is either quarters or halves. You just have to decide how big of a pickle you want. Also, the recipe does suggest that you put it into quart jars. I put it into pint jars just because once you open a jar of pickles after it's been canned, you want to use it up fairly quickly, about 2 weeks, and I'm not sure my family could eat a quart jar of pickles in 2 weeks. I've cut this pickle into 8s. And I have 1 jar filled. I pre-cut some of these yesterday. We're going to pack these into a sterilized jar. You can sterilize your jars in a variety of ways. Wash them in soap and water, and then you can either boil them in a kettle of hot water, or a method that I have just discovered and really like is you can put them into a 200-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. So wash them off, put them into the oven wet, and let them sit for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then they will be sterilized. Obviously, they are warm when they come out, so make sure that you take precautions. We're going to cut our spears into thirds, and really it's dependent on how tall your jar is, and we're going to pack these tightly into the jar. That one's a little wide. Two pounds of cucumbers will fill 4 pint jars. So we'll go ahead and do that next. I have packed 4 pint jars of pickles. This is 2 of those gigantic pickles. Now we're going to assemble the brine and the aromatics that go into the pickles. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to combine the vinegar, and we're going to use beer. These are IPA Inferno Pickles. My husband loves IPAs, and he loves things that are hot and spicy. Our friends at Urban South were gracious enough to let us use their Holy Roller Hazy Juicy IPA in this recipe. We love it. It makes a very intensely flavored pickle, and it works great with the spice that is in this recipe. We have combined the beer. We've put the beer in a pot, and then we are using Steen's cane vinegar. This is made exclusively from sugar cane. Steen's makes a variety of products, and we really love their cane vinegar. It has a sweetness and a richness that makes great pickles. It also is great in salads and dressings and things like that. We have a cup and a half of the Steen's cane vinegar and 1 can Urban South Holy Roller IPA beer. We are also going to put 2 tablespoons of kosher salt and a tablespoon of Cajun seasoning. There are a lot of varieties out there. If you like your pickles a little less spicy, you could use a seasonal type spice. I'm using Tony Chachere's. It's a staple in New Orleans. There's also Slap Your Mama. There are some other Cajun seasonings, and they're available pretty much around the country. Again, this is quarantine cuisine. If you don't have access to cucumbers, you could pickle other vegetables. We've pickled mirlitons. Mirliton is a kind of a squash similar to a chayote in the West. You could pickle cauliflower, you could pickle carrots. Any hard vegetable would be great in this recipe. We're going to let this boil, and when it boils, we will then pour it over the pickles. While we're waiting for it to boil, we'll stir it occasionally. But while we're waiting for this to boil, we will prepare the aromatics that go into our pickles. And these are added directly into the pot. The first thing we're going to add is garlic cloves. Again, I love a good gadget, and this is no exception. This is a garlic roller. It's made by Zach, and we'll put the link up on our website. I use this to peel my garlic. I've gotten lazy as of late, and I use the pre-minced garlic, and you'll see that in some of our recipes. But this is going to call for actual cloves of garlic, and peeling them is a pain. Let's get real. So anyway, you put this clove of garlic, it has the skin on it, into this, and you roll it like a rolling pin. You dump it out, and all of the little shreds of the garlic, all the peel of the garlic comes right off. If it's not off right away, you just toss it back in here, give it another roll, and it comes right out. Your kids can do this. They love to play with it, and you can get a whole couple of heads of garlic peeled and put them in a little olive oil, and you can keep them in your cupboard for later. What we're going to do with these aromatics is we are going to put an equal number of garlic cloves into each one. The recipe calls for 8. If you like it garlicky, put in more. If you like it less garlicky, put in less. It's again totally to your taste. Next, we're going to add a total of 4 teaspoons of dill seed into our container. We have 4, so we're going to divide it into quarters, which means there's a teaspoon of dill seed in each container. Next, we're going to add the peppercorns. If you have black peppercorns, certainly put these in this recipe. I like the multicolored peppercorns. They're beautiful. They add a variety of flavors to the pickles, and I like them for the depth of flavor. We're going to put a half a teaspoon of peppercorns into each container. Again, this recipe is to be divided between how many ever jars you're making. My husband loves things hot and spicy, so we certainly add red pepper flakes to this recipe. If your family does not like things hot, and I will tell you that the flavor intensifies and gets hotter as the pickles cure, so be very mindful of what your family likes in terms of heat. This recipe calls for a teaspoon of red pepper flakes, which would be a quarter of a teaspoon into each container. From personal experience, I know that's a little hot for most of the people in my family, for about half of my family. So I'm only going to put 1/8 of a teaspoon. Again, you can omit it completely or add what you think your family would be able to tolerate. We'll continue to stir the beer and vinegar mixture making sure that the seasoning and the salt does not go to the bottom. Our brine has come to a rolling boil, and it smells delicious, although the Cajun seasoning does give it a little bit of a peppery flavor, so don't breathe too deeply. And now we're going to put it into our jars. Take a ladle and very carefully pour the hot liquid over the pickles. Make sure that the cucumbers are covered. And repeat this procedure with all 4 of your jars. We filled all 4 of our jars with the liquid, and now we're ready to finish them off. We have sterilized these jars and these lids when we sterilized the jars in our oven. We're going to carefully screw on the lid. And when the lid seals, it'll pop, and you won't be able to do this to it, and then you will know that they are preserved to some degree. You can keep these for up to 2 weeks in your fridge just as they are, after they've cooled and sealed up. Now, if you do not think your family can eat 4 pints of pickles in 2 weeks, I would recommend another canning method to preserve them for longer. I will have another video about preserving these pickles in a water bath canning method, but I think that there are some people who this will be just great for in the final step. Once the pickles cool, you should wait at least 2 days to open them so that the flavors will meld and you will have the best flavor. And ideally, you could leave them for a week, but I'm not sure you can wait that long. And then refrigerate them for up to 2 months in your fridge, unless you can them with the water bath canning method. I want to thank Urban South for letting us use their Holy Roller IPA. And also, we picked up a bottle of their hand sanitizer. I know a lot of breweries and distilleries are making hand sanitizer, and I suggest when you're picking up your beer at the brewery that you pick up some of the hand sanitizer as well. It's been a couple of days now, and our pickles have been in the fridge and are ready to serve. I thought I'd make them the centerpiece of our backyard barbecue this afternoon. This will be great with the burgers we're having later, as will Urban South's Holy Roller IPA. If you like this recipe, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to go to Facebook and Instagram and like and follow us. All of our recipes, an archive of our videos, and our blog are located at www.broodandboostfood.com. We'll see you next time.